Hello from Athens, and good evening or good night in Australia. Good morning in the other side of Atlantic. Good afternoon to the rest of the world. Thank you for being with us today and this late afternoon in Central Europe session. We have a roundtable first of day one. In fact, I have to admit that I'm replacing the moderator for this roundtable. You see, the session is about be prepared for the unexpected, and that was very unexpected, as our colleague has to deal with quite a lot unexpected issues today, or this last couple of days. So, however, our topic will not be that, extended. We will concentrate on about being prepared for the unexpected and what we have already learned from the COVID case. I'm very pleased to have with us together four very distinguished guests, people with a lot of experience who were very kind to come and join us and stay with us and share their experience from the COVID case. With us is Team European Agency for Safety and Health at Work, and they is holding the position of Network Manager. Also with us is Paolo Zabbianchi, the HSE Culture Manager for Projects and Training Coordinator, the HSE Culture Projects and Training Coordinator with We Build, the Italian well-known company. Jose Manuel Della Torre, the Senior Corporate HSE Manager from Trans-Adriatic Pipeline, and also Jordan Tasev, the Commercial Director for Olymp Safety Equipment from Bulgaria. So we have Bulgaria, Jordan, Jose from Spain, Paolo from Italy, and Tim, well, I would say UK, but is based in Spain. So Spain wins today.
I'm based in Switzerland. I'm based in Switzerland, George. So.
Oh, all right, Jose. Right. You see, because of COVID, I thought you are still in Spain. So we have Spain, Switzerland, UK, indirectly, Italy, and Bulgaria. So as I haven't been the plant moderator, I will kindly ask the panelists to present themselves instead of me, because they will do it much better than me. So I will start with you, Tim, if you want to say a few words for yourself.
Good afternoon from a sunny Bilbao, which is unusual. My name is Tim Tregenza. I'm Senior Network Manager here at the European Agency for Safety and Health at Work. My responsibilities include the external relations of the agency to organizations such as the ILO, the WHO, and other international engagements. In a previous life, before I came to EU OSHA, I was a labour inspector in the United Kingdom, dealing especially with small and medium enterprises. Thank you.
You're on mute,
Thank you, team. Let's move to Paolo.
Okay, yes. As you said, I'm in charge about everything is related to the HSE culture and project, and also training to my colleagues. And mainly I can define myself by my vision. I want that my colleagues go back home healthier than they came to work due to their job. That's my vision, and how I spend my energy working towards this goal. That's how I can describe myself.
Thank you, Paolo. Jose?
Good afternoon. Yes, my name is Jose de la Torre, and Senior Manager Quality, Health, Safety, Environment, but also Land Management and Permitting in TAP. So I joined the company 6 years ago before starting the construction. So now we are fully delivering the gas. Before that, I was also working in Enagas, which is the Spanish TSO. And before also being in pharma and consulting services. So 20 years now working for HSE topics, and I've been part of my career as well, representing the company in Spain, as well as the Spanish Gas Association for the EU Association for Marco Gas and other GIA and other facilities and industries related to the gas business. It's a pleasure to be here again, George.
Thank you, Jose. Jordan, will you please present yourself?
My name is Jordan Tashev. I'm commercial manager of Olim Safety Equipment, key supplier and consultant and manufacturer of personal protective equipment. But as well as this, I'm also consultant in Bulgarian Association Labor Health and Safety, which is NPO for bringing health and safety awareness in Bulgaria. I've been working this 8 years now, both of my positions. And during the years, I learned a lot. I participated in a lot of projects for health and safety, including innovation in different products for high safety, Lotto, and many more. I'm very glad to be here and for giving me the word to exchange some knowledge, ideas, and best practices mostly. So I'll be happy for meeting you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Now, I would like to ask Tim to make a brief introduction of his approach, and then the other speakers, panelists, then they do the same. And at the same time, we would be very happy to collect your questions from the audience and to organize the discussion after they finish. So it will take us about 20 minutes of the short introduction altogether. Tim, floor is yours.
Thank you very much indeed. I decided this afternoon to play a little bit with devil's advocate. So I hopefully we will have an interesting discussion. And I'll start with this. Perhaps a COVID type pandemic was not unexpected. And I have a publication, I was looking for it earlier, and I now have my publication, Expert Forecasts on Emerging Biological Risks Related to Occupational Safety and Health, published by EWASHA in 2007. In the expert survey, it found 2 emerging biological risks that were strongly agreed, as it used in the terms. The first of which were the occupational risks from a global epidemic, e.g. SARS. And the second was the difficult assessment of risks from biological agents in the workplace. Well, we see now where we are in 2022. So it's very easy to say, yes, we told you so, but it's a little bit simplistic because, to be fair, a lot of things like what exactly, when exactly, and how was not predicted. But it is interesting to see that in a publication from 15 years ago, this topic was under discussion. The second point I would make is that EU legislation for occupational safety and health is in place, specifically the Framework Directive and the Biological Agents Directive, which are transposed into member state national legislation. And these put a clear structure for prevention to deal with the workplace biological agents. And I think the main point I would make here is that at the start of the outbreak, COVID was seen as a public health issue and not as an occupational health issue. So everybody was rushing to do things in the public health sphere. And despite the fact that workplaces were clearly a main area of transmission, maybe still are a key area where there is transmission, it was not, the occupational health community were not initially engaged very strongly. And this is a real lesson learned for labour inspectors, for public health bodies, for occupational health bodies, and perhaps in the workplaces as well. We have to see public health and occupational health together as two sides of the same coin. What we've seen in the pandemic is that those enterprises who are flexible, who are resilient, who have good social dialogue and a good occupational safety and health management system, they're the ones that cope best during the pandemic. And we've also seen that those workers who did not have decent work before the pandemic were likely to be badly affected by the pandemic in turn. I think about, for example, seasonal workers, think about workers in the informal sector. And in terms of what have we learned, I would say let's come back in 5 years and see if we've remembered the lessons. Because I sometimes think that we go through this, we'll go through this, and then it will fall gradually off the table, and then people will forget. People will forget the lessons, which we'll have to relearn at the next pandemic, the next epidemic, the next swine flu, the next bird flu, the next SARS, the next MERS, whatever it is. So my question would be, have we really learned lessons honestly? How do we prepare for the unexpected? Well, as a former labour inspector, of course, my answer is risk assessment. This is perhaps the occupational safety and health professionals' first response to anything. What I'm talking about here is at a broad, if you like, macro level, enterprises as well as systemic organisations like labour inspectors and other organisations, you've got to be taking the big picture as well as a small management picture. Think about climate change. Climate change is happening, it's happening now, it's possibly going to get worse in the future. How is your enterprise, how is your organization addressing those risks? Are you thinking about it even? And if you are, then you may have learned a lesson from the current pandemic. So I will stop there. That's my hopefully slightly provocative introduction, and I look forward to hearing the views of my panelists.
Thank you, Tim. In fact, I was very happy to hear you covering that way this topic well, with taking the devil's advocate at first place, but also raising the issue between public health and company health. So sustainability issue, and this has been discussed and touched during the day in many sessions and many presentations, because instantly the question to come is, all right, I'm a well-established company with good systems but after 8, 9, 10, whatever hours, my people, they go back home, their societies, their local places, and they may behave in a very different way, and these people will come to my company tomorrow. And risk assessment in cases of unexpected has also been touched in many cases today. So, and what I keep is, maybe we can make a poll at the end and say, what do we believe? Do we remember the lessons learned in 5 years' time? Thank you, Tim. Thank you very much. Okay. Paolo, your turn, please.
Yes, I will connect with the provocation made by Tim. We will remember what happened. And there is a word in my mind, palingenesis. That is a Greek word because it came from paling and genesis. I hope it pronounced it right. And it means change from outside. We are still waiting a change from outside. We are still waiting that something can change ourselves because it happened, but it really happened or not. And I made this metaphor. I love to ride my bike. I have a gravel one. Gravel, it's the name of the bike, the type of the bike, because you use it on the gravel. So sometimes you need to climb a mountain. And if I need to face climb a mountain, I don't lose any second thinking about how I can change this mountain, because I can't. I need to change myself. I need to shift gear to assume a new position on my bike so I can face this challenge. So I react on myself. We can call it risk assessment, we can call it training, we can call it whatever, but of course we need to shift the gear, we need the good equipment. I got a Bianchi one. I love the Italian bike that is not made in Italy, but is an Italian bike, or you can use a Giant or whatever, a Ridley bike, maybe Timothy will love it. But of course you need to have the tools, you need to practice the tools, you need to be ready for this. And the metaphor of the bike and the climbing of the mountain can be a good metaphor in order to understand that we can be prepared for the unexpected. Yes, we can, but not thinking about the palingenesis, something from outside, but thinking about how we can prepare our men, our women, our employee, how we can give them the tools, how we can give them the training to be prepared and to face every challenge, not losing any second thinking about how to change the mountain. We need to change ourselves, we need to change our position, and also thinking about position. I remember a very huge, amazing experiment, and with 1,000 people, it's a good number of people involved. They made it in Harvard. They asked to 500 people to assume some position and to 500 people to assume other position for just 2 minutes. The position were some position like this on protection, you protect your body, your organs, or a dominant position for just 2 minutes. They measure the quantity of cortisol and testosterone before and after the experiment. And they recognize that the percentage of cortisol in the people who assume just for 2 minutes this position, it was 25% more on cortisol, the stress hormone, and 10% less testosterone. For the people who assumed the dominant position for just 2 minutes, they had an increase in testosterone, 50%, and lower percentage, 20% less in cortisol, the hormone that related to stress. So just for 2 minutes. So as soon as we started with the COVID pandemic, we assumed that position, and also with our smartphones, sometimes we assume this position, and it's not so only a musculoskeletal problem. It can be also a problem with your mind, because your body talks with your brain, so it can be a problem. So we need to assume a new position. We need to be ready to face a challenge in a dominant position. When you can assume a dominant position, when you are aware that you have got your tools, you can face challenging, and you are ready for this. That's the only way, I guess.
Thank you, Paolo. Well, I noticed also in your presentation this afternoon that you try to bring life, nature into what you're doing, rather than to try to change the world and the nature. Takes the physical, so the physical way into what you're doing is what sometimes I say about safety, that life teaches you safety. So think physically, don't make things complicated. Yes, the presentation, I don't know who from you had the chance to attend the presentation of Paulo this afternoon. It was very amazing. Anyway, all the presentations are recorded, so sooner or later they will be uploaded and anyone can watch them at their pace and convenience. All right, thank you. Jose. You are muted.
Yeah, good afternoon again. So let me share the screen with you because I prepared very few slides, 5 minutes, but I think it's good to share this thing if possible. Can you?
Not yet. Yes, it's coming. Yes, it's with us.
Okay. So it is not full screen yet, no? No.
No, now it is.
Okay, good. So very quickly, and you will see why I'm telling you this point. But you know, TAP is the Trans-Adriatic Pipeline, or is the European leg of the Southern Gas Corridor, which is the value chain that improves the security of supply, energy diversification. Now in this period that we are even more and more, unfortunately, known by everybody about this energy diversification, connecting European markets to new sources of natural gas. In this case, is the Caspian Sea. It's coming from Azerbaijan. So we are the last part of the chain. TAP is connecting Turkey with TANAP, and then TANAP is also connecting with ACPX, arriving to Azerbaijan from the Caspian Sea. So the positive, or the point here to remark is, again, we are close to 900 kilometers of pipeline, split it in 3 countries: Greece, Albania, and Italy. Also, we have one part offshore in the Adriatic Sea, and 2 main facilities, one in the border with Turkey in Kipi compressor station in Greece, another one in Fier, Albania, before starting the offshore part. So the reason why I tell you that is because we started operations October 2020. As you know, pandemic started in February 2020. So we were just in the most complex, moments in an oil and gas project, which is, closing construction, starting commissioning. So at that moment, we were still thousands of people on field. We were 4 different countries, also Switzerland, but Greece, Albania, and Italy. During commissioning phase, also, you need to have a lot of qualified professionals of the oil and gas industry. They are expert in the different equipments that you are commissioning, and also you are preparing the O&M team. So you need a lot of time spent for training, for on field, showing the new equipments to the team, people on field preparing commissioning. So the smart work is something that for these guys, something we cannot have, of course. So you can imagine the effort that the company had to do in order to complete the project on time, protecting first of all the health and safety of all employees and contractors, but not having or applying some other possibilities other company could have with the smart working. So this is not the case, and also in our case, we have to, for example, talking to the countries with embassies, organizing charter flights to mobilize personnel from one country to another, because some airports were even closed. So believe me, it was probably the most challenging period in my life, professional life, thanks to this COVID, this pandemic. So based on this experience, so they have a few questions. We are health and safety professionals. First of all, do we consider we have protected our workers adequately? Another thing also, if a new crisis arises, how can we better protect workplaces for the future? It's something that Tim also mentioned before. Can we also use this lesson learned from the future? Is this something we will forget? I remember my first experience with pandemics with the avian flu. I don't remember exactly the year, but in this case was something that is coming, also a big pandemic related to the flu, the avian flu, with the Tamiflu, companies purchasing vaccines, etc. At the end, nothing happened, but probably was the first test to test in business continuity aspects and other things. At that moment, probably the technology was not like today, and thanks to this smart working or teleworking or the video conference, a lot of things has been probably easier that a pandemic like the avian flu could happen in the past. No? So for me, two main things are coming from the two big lessons learned coming from this pandemic. First of all is resilience. So how important is resilience for the companies? And the second one is, and this is also important, our interconnected needs also interconnected solutions. So it was a chaos in terms of mobilized personnel. Each country, different regulation, different protocols, every week changing the protocol. In one company, you need a PCR, another company, you need a rapid test, and one company is available, one country, sorry, 48 hours validity, another country 72 hours, one country mask, another country no mask, one country FFP2, another country surgical mask. And this creates also a confusion and even a lot of workload just for understanding what are the the protocols to apply in each country, because that's something probably also at EU level. It was not possible to find only one common protocol for the country. So why COVID is affecting different to Italian to a Swiss? No? Or even now, Switzerland has lifted all the restrictions. There is no restriction now. If you cross the border, you are in Ticino, you need now to wear the mask if you are in their spaces. Why? Is affecting COVID different Swiss guy to Italian guy? This is a different concept I have here, no? Because we are a company in 4 countries, and we try to apply the same protocols in the 4 countries, no? So, for example, we still have mandatory use of the face masks in the offices. So people here in Switzerland come to me and say, why do I need to wear the mask? The protocol in the country is you don't need to wear the mask, no? I say, yes, but you go to Italy, you need to wear, and we follow doctor protocols, no? So I think this is, for me, one of the big lessons learned from this pandemic, try to really unify protocols that, if possible, in the different countries, no? But also related to this resilience, because at the end, resilience, as you know, the concept of resilience, according to the ISO 22316, is the ability of organization to anticipate, prepare, respond, and adapt to incremental change of sudden disruptions in order to survive and prosper. No? So I think that in our case, one of the good things we had in the company was that we had already prepared a business continuity. It was not related to a pandemic, but we have a business continuity plan that, for example, we had identified what were the critical positions and how to, in case that something could happen with one person tested positive, how to manage this situation. No? Teamwork is also key. I discovered that in this case, since the first moment, we create a crisis management team, an emergency response team at different levels in the countries. And that in this crisis management team were all the LT represented, from legal to operations to managing director, HR. Everybody were only one voice to try to use the same protocol in every place. No? Flexibility, aware, we learn about that. No? Every week, something new. So we have to adapt very quickly with our doctors about how to manage this new situation of the pandemic. No? And it was also mentioned this morning, communication I think was key. No? We had to communicate continuously to our employees about what is the different, what is the new protocol. I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, you probably are aware about that. The World Health Organization would say, no, face mask is not needed. Even it's not good to wear because it gives you a false sense of protection. Nowadays, it's clear that the face masks were the most effective way to protect them from the pandemic. So I remember how also the situation has changed during these 2 years on that. No? And crisis and emergency response also is something that we manage thanks also to big or coming from a big project like this. From construction phase, we have a very robust crisis emergency response plan, performing exercise every month, every year at least, activating crisis management team. So as soon as a crisis like this came, we knew what to do. Probably was not related to a pandemic, of course, was more related to a construction operational incident, but at least we will have very clear what are the role and responsibility, which of them, and how to organize communication, crisis room, etc. No? And finally, the health and safety. No? So finally, probably many companies focus more on safety concepts. If something has brought a pandemic as well, is that how important as well is health. No? So that's the summary, let's say, or the many questions also raised. We could be discussing many hours about this pandemic and this lesson that we have, but I think it could be a good discussion now to share with all you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose, for presenting a real case. And I believe is well worth it having this in one workshop that just to analyze it, to learn from this. And I keep you mentioning about the house to deal with different regulation between the countries you operate. Really, that's, well, it's a very headache for the people they had to deal with. And also, when you mention resilience, I quickly come to, well, I almost go or make a comparison about the medium and small size companies. And I wonder, all these systems, sustainability, resilience, management systems in place, and all how these small companies can deal with, and what the big companies, let's say the employers of the contractors, how this should help these companies to adapt, because there is a cost, definitely, as a cultural issue. And when this morning at the first session, it was they were talking about an investment in all this soft environment, let's say, about sustainability, how these small companies can do that. So I believe that would be a good question to discuss further later today, how you manage this with your contractors, smaller companies than TAP. Okay, so left is Jordan. Jordan, the floor is yours.
Thank you again. So I'll try to briefly give a small overview of what we learned and what we try to do here in our organization regarding Bulgaria and what happened here. It's actually very similar to every other country, of course. So everything started with the question in the beginning: how should we get protected from virus and from COVID and so on? People started really very nervous, searching for a solution to protect themselves. They started using every kind of protective masks. And what happened is, in one point, there wasn't enough protective equipment for the doctors, sadly, and a lot of doctors passed away, which was very big tragedy in Bulgaria. But in the end, they just, like several months later, everyone started to discuss, why do we need these masks and so on. Well, actually, there was a big misleading in Bulgarian market, because a lot of people just wanted to sell something for one or other reason, and a lot of products entered the market with no legislation and following a lot of other problems like allergies and so on. However, we learned that we must protect ourselves in this kind of strong pandemic situations, but we must not forget that we have to think in the future. If we use everything that is needed for the frontline doctors, it will be very bad for us also. And another thing is, if we use not appropriate equipment without standardization, it is also going to reflect on our health. So this is two important questions that we would like to share. And another thing is, it's not only to forget about masks. This is actually a question in Bulgaria. And maybe in other countries also, they speak that we must stop wear masks. This is true and not true for different segments and areas, because before pandemic, before COVID, actually masks were and are still very important for other industries where they're still not used in Bulgaria. People don't believe they need this kind of equipment because they don't know what will happen in the future when they not use for a long time. For example, in agriculture, and it's going to reflect, and also in very very bad conditions on the roads, like dust and so on. This could reflect in allergies that are moved to the other generations. So this is important. People don't understand. And this is why we try to make more and more free seminars and also trainings to keep the awareness of people that it's not only pandemic, it's not only like virus, it's also everything else in our everyday life. The air around industrial zones is not very clear, it's not very good for breathing. So we must think about this. And it's not only occupational safety, as just to remember the name of our other one of our speakers, Paulo. Yes, Paulo, exactly. He said it's actually public safety, maybe home safety, and occupational safety also. It's not only occupational safety. Safety is everywhere, and we must think about this. Another thing that you all actually said about, but I would like to say it again. After COVID, post-COVID problems are like MSD, musculoskeletal disorders, which are connected with the campaign that EU OSHA made. And we tried to, actually we started in the beginning of this campaign before COVID. It was before COVID. We made very good presentations and trainings, materials for learning and for training people what they should do. And these materials were actually extremely appreciated in our country from different companies. And I think I should share this with you. Additionally, I can send you these materials to see what we developed as confirming the EU OSHA campaign. And also stress is important question. We understood that this virus and also other illnesses reflect strongly on the stress in people. So this is main questions I think are also important, and we learned in our company that we should address most often. Thank you again. Your microphone, yeah.
Jordan, thank you very much. I think you are very like to Paulo, so you will make a very good team. You managed to go from COVID to everywhere. It's amazing. All right, thank you very much. So we have already some questions, and I will try to make it quickly because some are very long. I read this before. I started with one being asked by undergraduate student of electrical engineering in the University of Thrace in Northeast Greece. Thank you, Tim, for that. And the question is, when you mentioned it was something that we have worked about, you mean that there were risk assessments at that moment and haven't been used, or they ignored on purpose? That's the meaning of the question.
Okay. At governmental level, governments do risk assessment. They do preparation for major events. All governments do. It's easy to say after an event, yes, this was bound to happen, and then that's the easiest thing to say. And governments do not. We can say there are a range of scenarios, as we talked earlier, that may happen, and governments do plan for these scenarios. Governments had stockpiled personal protective equipment. Governments did have plans for rapid access to vaccines. Governments did have a lot of emergency plans for the inspectorates, public health bodies. But I can't remember which general said no plan survives contact with the enemy. And this is the situation with the pandemic. There were plans, but the moment we came to face with the pandemic we had, then those plans had to be rewritten. We had to go back and say, this is not actually the type of coronavirus we were anticipating. It's a different one, so we have to adapt accordingly. It's very easy to blame organizations or enterprises post facto, and it's a lot more difficult to be predicting and allocating, and the most important, allocating the resources to the right places, because everything is resource driven. Yeah, whether it's at enterprise level or at governmental level, you have finite resources, and this has to be taken into account when you are doing your planning, your horizon scanning, your risk assessments, your emergency planning. So I'd frame it like that.
Thank you, Tim. Yes, very fair comment, because definitely organizations have in place various scenarios, but to analyze to the full extent and practice and make drills for each one of that, the resources required will be enormous. And now it's very easy because this happened. If it was something else, we will blame the people about the other case. Yes, fair comment. Thank you. Well, another one from Alexandros to Paolo. Alexandros says that I think you initiate a new topic for practical toolbox talk, combining ergonomics with pandemic. So please, Paolo and Alexandros, when you develop this, don't forget the idea was born here today, so share it with us. For comments or for use?
Yes, I also worked in oil and gas sector for Saipem, and talking about PPE as well. Every time I went outside, I worked on drilling, I felt myself protected by the equipment because I believe in that equipment, believe in the quality of that equipment. And so I assume the dominant position, let's say, and during a toolbox talk can be really useful to reconnect people with the risk assessment, with the protective equipment we have, and thinking about that there are clear roles for everyone. So team working can be also, as Jose said, can be also a solution. Talking about bikes, there is the double track. You take your time facing the wind, then there is someone else who faces the wind and protect yourself. So absolutely, I love the metaphor. I love to ride my bike. And of course, Toolbox Talk can be a good moment also to realign people. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. From Andrea Romeo. Hello, everyone, and thanks for your opinions and experience. I ask myself if the right question is not maybe how can we bring companies to be proactive and inherent flexible? If we keep it only on risk assessment level, and I think the risk assessment is a very key tool here by definition, events with low likelihood should be treated as not realistic. Events with low likelihood should be treated as not realistic. all right? But in fact, as we have seen in the picture of Olga, Olga is in fact a refugee, left Ukraine to Germany. I was very brave to present this afternoon and be with us. It was an excellent presentation, not about Ukraine, but generally what could happen in such cases. And we were very pleased to have her with us. And what Olga showed is a missile can fall down a nuclear plant or whatsoever. Which, well, now I'm thinking about project life cycle approach, and we say, what could go wrong in our project? An airplane to fall into our motorway. Oh, very remote, exclude it. Really, thank you, Andrea. I don't know if someone of you would like to comment on that.
I think, if I may,
yes,
I think
you are very terrified about missiles or your pipeline. Yes, I can understand.
No, not about this, but the concept of proactivity, I think is very important, as he said. And this is something, as I mentioned before, we discovered that you have a powerful tools that can be flexible, adaptable. You can use for situations like this. So, as I said, we had a crisis emergency response plan. Of course, the scenarios we have was never thought about the pandemic, but the concept, the global document itself helped a lot, because since the day after we were down with the crisis management team organized, we have a crisis management team leader, incident management team at country level, emergency response team at state level. So at the end, no matter the situation is different to a normal oil and gas incident, let's say it's a pandemic, but we use the concept of this. And for example, another thing I think the pandemic also learned is how important as well to testing the tools we have in our companies. Because some companies say, for tick on the box, you have emergency response plan? Yes, I have it. It's in my inbox, in my box, but never testing. And we have a situation, also a real case, that 12 midnight one Saturday, I was discussing with one of the country managers and the doctor to take a decision, because we had a contractor in a room in the hotel that our doctor was saying that the oxygen blood, it was quite low, and this person need to be mobilized. This person doesn't want to be mobilized. It was a contractor, so we couldn't take the final decision. We tried to contact the company, it was impossible. No one, the emergency number of the company, everything was there, but till the day after, at mid-afternoon, we couldn't contact with the company to really say, you have here an employee, the oxygen blood is not so good, our doctor recommended to mobilize, please, you need to take action. And this is another thing that shows that we could have an emergency response plan very good, but if you never test, try, and check the things, at the end you see that it's not properly working. And another concept that related to the proactivity, we realized that this person, it was an expat, this was in Albania, and this person was diabetic. Why this person was traveling during pandemic being diabetic? Why the occupational doctor were not doing a pre-check before allowing him to travel in the middle of the pandemic? So cases like this we have a lot, so I fully agree with Andrea. I know him because also it was part of the TAP. It was another case. But yes, proactivity for us, for me, I think is key as well. Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, yes. Well, all this happened because to have an accident, as you use this Swiss model at your slides, this at the beginning, yes. So many things should happen. Somebody else who wants to comment on that? Yes, Tim.
I would just say what Jose says is completely correct, is that everybody basically nowadays has a business continuity plan, crisis management plan, call it what you want. But as always, it's training, it's practice, it's the competence of the work. An interesting test would be to find your emergency phone list and call every number and how many of them work. Yeah, that emergency response, that crisis management process that you will have in your enterprise. How do you assess that? How do you audit it? How do you test it? And that's perhaps the crucial message that maybe comes out of the pandemic.
Very good point. Thank you. Let me move to the next one. Well, George Floridis is on the same side about the risk assessment. And what he would like to hear is your point of view and how could we manage such not normal, abnormal situation. If I put it well in English, what I want to say, this is not something that, okay, we expect a fire. It's not normal, we expect a fire, but this is a very remote case. So you suggest to include this in risk assessment. And again, we come to what we discussed with team. All right, yes, we may develop scenarios, but what scenarios? If we sit together in half an hour, we will have a list of another very remote, another 20 very remote scenarios. So what do you suggest? Jorgen? Oh.
Yes, actually, I connect this with the following. So we cannot be prepared for everything. It's just not possible. But what we can do is to regularly try to understand the world and to try to find new ways to bring better and better health and safety, for example, or better and better in everything. It's not only the safety, it's with everything. So you can't know, it's impossible to know what will be the best product for the future to produce, for example. And it's the same with the safety. It's not possible to predict what will happen in the future in order to be safe. Yeah, but you can think about this. So, for example, what EU OSHA is doing is very important. They are making different campaigns during different periods, and they bring awareness in the people what could be done better and what else is there for keeping you safe. And it's not only, I think that it must not only be EU OSHA that is doing this, but actually everyone else should consider this. Everyone should think about and watch what they are doing. That's why we also try to make it more spread in Bulgaria. That's why we invest in EU OSHA campaigns. And this is one of the things that we could do in order to be prepared for something unexpected.
Thank you, Jordan. Team, yes.
Yes, I think there's two things I would say. There's, first of all, large enterprises, systems, organizations have to engage in some degree of horizon scanning. We may not know exactly what will happen, but we know that things are happening and that emergencies do happen. And I mentioned climate change as one example, the move towards a more global workforce. We have a move to digitalization. We've had the acceleration of homeworking, teleworking as a result of the pandemic. That was happening anyway, and we've seen the acceleration of it. These are things that are happening. We may not know exactly how it will pan out, but we know things are happening, and good enterprises are looking there as well. They're saying, well, okay, let's be prepared. And the second thing is, as we talked about earlier, emergencies are foreseeable. We may not know the exact form of the emergency, but they are foreseeable. Test your systems, train your people, practice. And this is what you can do. It may not be sexy, but it's essential.
Yeah, absolutely right. And now I can recall that in many cases, in my career, I came across companies that suppose that according to the law, they had developed an emergency response plan. and never made any drill, never tested, or yes, we've done a test. Oh, it was 5 years ago, 4 years ago. And is it recorded? No. And is it updated? No. I can recall a case that they have in a plant. They use the local water system for firefighting for their sprinklers. They didn't have any tanks for that, so they would use the 6 bars pressure, and in minutes that would be 0.5 pressure, so doing nothing, and nobody did anything about that. So really, if you start developing the emergency plans, test them, develop further, and continuously develop this, then you will be more ready, even if you haven't captured the very specific scenario, to respond. Thank you, Tim. Jose?
Yes, sorry. No, I fully support what Tim mentioned. I think for me, this is the key of this kind of thing. So it's impossible to predict all the things because nobody knows exactly what could come. But I think the important is to have the right tools and the right flexibility, and to adapt for the different circumstances that you could have. And also what I said before with the avian flu, I remember that a pandemic like this 10, 15 years ago, probably we're having more disasters than it has been. For the first point that, for example, nowadays, most of the people has a laptop. At that period, we are talking about probably 2002, more or less 2002, 2003. Not everybody had a laptop in the company. So nobody had internet at home with the possibility to do that. Nobody could connect to a video conference we are doing now. So I remember that this flexibility I mentioned before has been key. How many companies has been testing the smart working for years? Let's go to do a pilot. Let's go to try. This pandemic brought, like, from Friday to Monday, everybody working from home. And there were a lot of questions in the air, like, is going to be possible internet to resist this kind of thing? So, in our case, for example, we have a health well-being program for our employees. We need to change completely this program, as some of our colleagues mentioned before. We need to adapt to the ergonomy, how to work from home, how to sit properly, we also offer screens and some chairs to our employees in case that they couldn't have at home. But also we use our doctors to prepare videos about how to work in an ergonomy point of view using the tools that you have at home. So but also we thought about mental health as well, not only ergonomy. So we try to, because we have colleagues, expats in the company, many expats, and it is hard to have kids at home, totally locked down, but also it's really hard to be alone at home for so much time. So
indeed,
there were employees that we noticed that mentally they were now having some issues. So we try to organize other kind of things in order to keep these people aware. And also, for example, in our case, these operational guys that I mentioned before, when we start into operation, we had to create bubbles, and we have to isolate these people within the bubble. Isolate means that for 1 week, these people were working to the site, and after working to the site, come back to a hotel totally isolated in a room in the hotel. So no gatherings, no dinners, everything at home or in the hotel, but in the bedroom of the hotel. Dinners, lunch, breakfast, and also during the weekend, we also offer a program to them in order to, let's say, playing games, watching movies, video calls with the colleagues to be connected, because this aspect was really hard when you are isolated from the family, totally isolated. I think this concept also was key in this pandemic, how to manage this mental health with the different employees that in one another way, for the lockdown, but also because they have to work and in a very severe bubble, how to maintain these people, mental health.
Thank you, Jose. Well, this about bubble solution is very impressive, I believe. Well, I knew about that, but for people hearing about this is very, very impressive. What challenges you come across and you have to face. Paolo, give us a more light approach, please.
Yes, also reconnecting to my metaphor of riding the bike, I can connect also to the metaphor made by Simon Sinek, how you can prevent teeth diseases, caries, by brushing your teeth once a week for around 1 hour. No, you need to brush a couple of times, maybe 3 for just 2 minutes, but every day. This applies to leadership. If you want to be a leader, you don't need to make big event or big acts. You need to act every day, constantly. And also practicing what is related to emergency response. You cannot practice it 1 time in your life or 1 time a year. You need to practice it with different scenarios, maybe once a week, and then you are prepared almost for everything. Maybe everything is impossible, but if you are really practicing yourself, you start to be really resilient. What does it mean being resilient? You are ready for everything because you are trained for everything. You are practicing daily on a daily routine, so you are really prepared for this. If you are Miguel Indurain, you can climb huge mountains, but if you practice with riding your bike every day, yeah, you can climb every mountain, let's say.
Yeah, I believe, yes, this is a key point, because if you're trained to be ready to adapt to new environment, then you're trained to do that. You're not ready to adapt immediately, but you are trained to get there. Thank you, Paolo. Well, I believe that if I submit any proposal to your company, I will put a bike on top of that, so you know that is my proposal. I suppose I will have some more chances to get the job. Thank you. All right. Well, Roland is asking, team, are you getting into having any lessons learned, listed, analyzed, and this may be passed on to the new regulation, will be the basis for new regulation in a European Union level? You are muted.
There, that's better. I was multitasking unsuccessfully. I'm sorry. First of all, yes, what we did during the pandemic is, when the pandemic hit very swiftly, we had to adjust everything we were doing, and we started doing a lot of work, working particularly with the European Centre for Disease Control and the European Commission, and saying, okay, we have a common approach, we're sharing our information, we're making sure everything we convey is consistent. So ECDC is very much the public health side, Commission is the legislation, the strategy, the money, importantly, and we are providing the occupational health and safety information that fitted together. And in fact, on our website, I've just put the link in the chat, is you can go and see all our resources. We went out early and asked during the first lockdown, during the first couple of months, what's happening in your country? What are you doing? What are the Labour Inspectorates doing? How is this being dealt? And we were pulling this information in and sharing it to the Commission, to our social partners, to our networks, so we could monitor how things were changing over time. Whether we were going to end up, second thing is our publications, the guides we've done on long COVID, on COVID in the workplace, things like this. These are updated as the knowledge changes and we get better. We no doubt will do another update. So the practical information is changing, is getting better as the situation changes. We saw early on it was about the isolation, working from home, things like this. Then we moved into concern about vaccines and how do we manage vaccination programs. There's also concern about seasonal workers. How do we deal with these people? So as things came up, we shared the information, we gathered the information, and we communicated on this. Whether we're going to do post-COVID analysis, I would like to hope so. I actually hope we're in a post-COVID situation soon, and then we consider it. But we will continue to adapt and change as we go on. I would just like to, close on this and pick up what Jose said earlier about leadership. And this is absolutely crucial. The leadership of an organization is what will really make the difference in these emergency situations. And in some ways, leadership, being able to communicate, being able to offer solutions out of the box, showing trust in your workforce is another one that we saw as a key factor in the pandemic. You heard stories of micromanagement, workers at home, continually connected, not being allowed to get on the job. Just to give an example, my previous director who was here in the pandemic, when we all got sent home, said, "I trust you to do the best you can in difficult circumstances." And that was the message she gave. That's leadership.
Very good. Right. There is Zoe asking if there are any pillars about avoiding transmission. Well, the question is to Jose, but I believe that everyone can comment on that.
Well, if I started the question for me, but yes, probably Tim and the other colleagues can.
What are the pillars for preventing the transmission of COVID?
For me, my personal opinion here is that is key, for example, a rapid response. So, from, country level, but also EU level, in a situation, a pandemic, in some cases, it's true that the government has a lot of bureaucracy, things, and also what happened also in this pandemic, there is a moment in which you need to wait between economic versus health. We have seen many times that the doctor will give an opinion, politician another opinion. This is the situation, for example, now. When you ask experts, they tell you that clearly it's too early for lift the restriction in wearing the face mask. But you see the politicians say that there is no need. Countries like UK, for example, I see one advert from British Airways, that the crew were, advertising, you can fly with us without the mask, and I think that this is not probably the right message, to deliver. But country like Switzerland, we are still above 2,500 cases per 100,000 the last 14 days. Italy is 1,600. Greece is 2,700 cases per 100,000. So if you see your circle of colleagues and friends, probably you have still people with COVID. So I think no matter that we need to be prudent in the approach. I think that probably it's too early still to lift in many of the restrictions. So coming back to response, for me, I think it's key to provide a rapid response and also try to unify, as I said at the beginning, at least a minimum requirements. Then you can be more restricted, But try to establish a common approach of the different countries. It's important because otherwise, create a lot of confusion about the people for mobilizing from one country to another. I remember my case as well. Based in Switzerland, I had to come back to Spain. I think it was one Easter or one Christmas, I don't remember. It was crazy for me because I was landing in Malaga, in Spain, but I need to go to Cordoba. So I didn't know if I could drive from Malaga to Cordoba because I'm not based in Spain. I'm Spanish, but not living there. So if the police stopped me, I don't know. And I remember some colleagues who work for the police say, it will depend on the guy to stop you because your situation like this, it's something that, who knows can create you very strict. Like, no, you are landing in Malaga. You cannot move from one region to another. Another one will understand that you are moving to this case. So situation like this, I think, should be more treating more common approach, not different level, global level, let's say.
To share with you some of the measures we took in our company, this included that we tried to keep people coming to the company in a different room, so there was no direct contact with the others, or keep people at home. We tried, though, to do this in shift, in bubbles, because of the mental issues, stress issues, psychological issues, because, all right, we're not made to work from home and just like this. We tried, we had a very frequent presentations from our occupational doctor, who is very well, who is very well working with COVID because of his specialty, and try to tell the people what is the situation and what they have to do. And that was on a regular basis. We choose to wear masks, and we improved to FFP2 or 3. Well, I prefer the 3 instead of 2. Instead of all the other masks used in earlier months. We tried when traveling to be, well, we had cars for all the people, so not to use public transportation and few other things. And well, it went well. I'm not saying that we haven't been contracted, but hopefully at the end of the day, we may say, yes, we survived with no losses, definitely. And only 1 or 2 cases that were a little bit more serious than others, but none been to the hospital. I suppose this is also a matter of luck because of how, what the doctors say is that every organization, every person may react a little bit differently. So that's from our side to share it with you. If you like to have a last round of a comment or a statement from your side before we close. Jordan, would you like something to add?
Yes, actually, I would like also to add that we must continue our lives, and we must continue to work and live and do everything, but we must be flexible, as everyone else in this session said. We must be flexible, resilient, committed, and maybe we must continue to give more and more innovation for this world, to get better and better every day.
And be prepared for the next unexpected.
Yes.
Paolo.
Let's take this idea, per aspera ad astra. It means through hardship to the stars. So we pass through a very hard period, but let's hope we can lead it to the stars, let's say.
All right, I like this. I buy in. Can you write it also in the chat, please?
Yes.
Thank you, Tim, for sharing with us 3 publications of EU Awesome. So, Tim, your comment, final comment?
I think I would, building on what you was saying, that yes, resilient, flexible enterprises with good social dialogue, a NOSH management system, and those that are preparing for emergencies, even if they don't know what the emergency will be.
Right, exactly. Thank you. And Jose?
I would concur with what my colleagues said, no? and also saying the motto that we have now from our colleague, which is we care, we adapt. And that's the way that, you know, the message we are giving to our colleagues and employees in the company now for any signature.
But the feeling I have is that all 4 of you, you had a very positive statement to make at the closing of this roundtable. So you are all positive, and this is very good. And I hope this message will pass to everyone. Let's stay optimistic. Thank you very much. I'm so grateful to you because we extended our time by about half an hour. it was so difficult to me to resist to extend. I could stay with you for another half an hour and an hour, but all right, I understand that you all have commitments, and also the people that are attending this round table. Thank you very much from my heart. Thank you very much. Do your best for the next unexpected in terms of preparation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.